I'm Sophie Morgan, and I like to live life to the full.
5 seconds, here we go.
Whether it be TV work, skydiving, or modelling, I don't let the fact I'm paralysed hold me back. But I wasn't born disabled. Aged 18, I was a total wild child, and my driving was just as crazy. 6 months after passing my driving test, I was speeding, misjudged a corner, and the car flipped over. I woke up in hospital, confused and completely terrified. It was then that I realised that I couldn't feel my body and that I was paralysed. What is it that turns people like me into maniacs when we first get behind the wheel?
You can't stay at like 30 miles an hour. It's just
such a boring speed.
And has made traffic collisions the single biggest killer of young people. I feel like I've been transported into another world where, like, rules and fear don't exist. A fifth of all new drivers will have a serious collision in their first year driving. So this is Duffus Hall. This is where I took my last steps ever. It was here in 2003 that we were out celebrating our A-level results. We all knew it was the end of an era. But for me, it was the end of one life. I remember how I was feeling at the time, full of excitement, because it was basically the next start of my new life, out of school, off to uni. The reality was that that was not going to happen, and it was going to change. All right. The crash happened as we drove back to a friend's house. I had only driven half a mile. Is there not meant to be a fence here?
There was before you went to...
They still haven't fixed it?
Yeah. Well, they still haven't fixed the road either.
Yeah, but they don't need to...
They can't fix the road, though.
On the road, don't they?
Do you remember how fast I was driving?
I think it was maybe about, like, over 70. You took the corner too wide, and then...
Shot across.
Shot across, and then I think the verge lifted the car.
Remember, put my head through a window?
Really?
You're hysterical. I kept saying, I can't feel my legs, I can't feel my legs. So I thought, oh, that's pretty bad. The fire brigade were there when we left, but they hadn't even, I don't think they'd even worked out how they were going to get Sophie out by the time we left.
The minute I start thinking about how it affects the people that I have in my life, it makes me very, very upset, because it was my fault. Everything was my fault, and my friends have had to live with what I did, and I don't think I'll ever find peace with that.
I was angry with you because you endangered our lives.
There was anger. I think there was upset.
I think it's absolutely fair enough that any of you would get angry. If I had been you and you'd crashed that car, despite anything that you'd done to yourself, I'd be furious with you. I hate thinking about the fact that I could have, you know, done lasting damage to any of you. I'm glad that it was just to me, and in many ways I think I deserve what happened to me, because it was, you know, I was driving like an idiot. Just thought that the rules didn't apply to me, and that I could make my own rules and I could do my own thing. I can't imagine, though, what it must feel like to be the person responsible for a death. And how much worse that must be if you killed someone you love.
In the middle of talking and then somebody gets a picture. Not your best. No, it's not.
Jamie Mann and Lee DePino had been best friends for years before starting a relationship and planning a future together.
We were really happy and things were just going how we wanted them to. And then it all very wrong.
Jamie had only been driving for 6 months when she drove them home one night. So this is where you had your accident?
Yeah. I remember coming round that corner there, then I felt the car come out at the back, and then I just didn't know what to do to get back from that.
Really? So you felt like the car had lost control?
Yeah.
And then you didn't know how to steer it back into control?
Yeah. I can't remember seeing it, but I can hear it all. I can still hear it now. Going into a first treat, and then after that I just remember waking up. Sorry.
It's difficult to know exactly what happened or why Jamie lost control. There's no CCTV on roads like this one. Jamie was shaken, but not badly injured. But Lee was instantly killed.
Did you know that Lee was dead? Then?
Yeah, you could just tell that nobody was there.
Really?
Knowing that you're responsible for that happening to somebody is the worst thing ever.
Before the collision, the couple had shared a large group of friends, but Lee's death changed all that.
A lot of people are quite nasty towards me now, so
What do they say?
call me a murderer and stuff.
People call you a murderer?
Yeah. You just sometimes just want to scream and say that you never meant to do it.
In court, Lee's family had hoped that Jamie would go to prison, but the judge blamed a momentary lack of attention and decided she'd suffered enough, so she didn't go to jail. But 2 years after the accident, I get the feeling that she's really serving a life sentence.
What's happened to Jamie is one of the saddest things that could happen to anybody. To have killed the person that you love and to be responsible for that and to have to live with that for the rest of your life. How does anybody recover from that? If you survive a car accident, and I don't think people realise just how life-destroying it is, and even if you do walk away, you never walk away. You carry that forever.
There are many who argue we should start learning to drive at a younger age and do it for longer. And already there are schemes to introduce 16 to 18-year-olds to the realities and responsibilities of being on the road. An initiative set up by Surrey Fire and Rescue Service called Safe Drive, Stay Alive puts on regular shows that start with the feel of a night out. With loud music and DJs, it's like having the radio turned up to the max in your first car. But then come hard-hitting films and real-life testimonies to show what can happen if a driver loses control for just a second.
When they hit the tree, she took full impact at 80 miles an hour. That girl in that car was my beautiful daughter, Kelly. Every year I miss her more and more, and it doesn't get any better.
There are similar events in other parts of the country, but since this one in Surrey started in 2005, it's had massive success, helping reduce the fatalities by 70%.
A lot more people should see it because it's definitely changed the way I think about driving. I'm going to be a lot more responsible now.
If I have a passenger, I'll definitely make sure that they wear a seatbelt as well as me, because it's my responsibility of looking after people in the car.
You have to see that because it's like an added skill on what you learn from driving, is to stay aware.
The last thing I remember is holding him in my arms and begging him not to leave me. Please God, don't let him die. Eric David Rain was 20 years old. I'd known him since I was 5 years old, for 15 years, and he was my best friend. My only job that night as a driver was to get the people in my car safely to where they were meant to be going. And I failed at that.
For the people watching, this is incredibly powerful. But I think it's exactly what they need, and it works. This really does save lives.
It makes me angry that I didn't have something like this when I was learning. But it makes me happy that young people are learning and they've got this, they've got things like this available to them. It's annoying it's too late for some of us.